Hey guys, Chris here with the Good Old Gamer. So ladies and gentlemen, the RTX 2070 Super, it wasn't just killed, it was murdered. So today we finally got some reviews on the AIB partner cards for the new Radeon RX 5700XT. And the reviews that I've seen are exceedingly good. Basically, the major issues that people had with the RX 5700XT, gone. Now, there are some minor lingering issues, and I'll touch on those here in a little bit. However, the underlying message that I'm seeing here that nobody's really talking about is the 2070 Super is now an irrelevant card. It makes sense for nobody to purchase, and essentially forces NVIDIA into a position where they either need to lower prices or they're just going to lose out a ton of market share. And if NVIDIA keeps doing practices like this, they will eventually go out of business, as companies like Intel and ARM will soon be entering into the GPU market. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these reviews. Alright, so Gamers Nexus did a review on the RX 5700XT Pulse, and this is the card that I'm really going to focus on, mostly due to its price point, as this is coming in at only $409 or $410, so it's basically just $10 more than the reference model, and still $90 away from the baseline RTX 2070 Super. So it's in the same league as the 2060 Super, even with the AIB partner card. Now, I'm not going to read through the entire conclusion here. I'm going to put links in the description below so you guys can read the article for yourself. But the underlying thought process is basically the Pulse went ahead and brought down temperatures at the 40 decibel level to a much more acceptable point, basically on par with most graphics cards out there, and kept temperatures nice and cool. Now, Steve had a lot of issues with basically the GPU not acting appropriately when he set things like the fan speed. It just wouldn't work quite right, and just small little things like that. Essentially, what he's saying is overclocking is dumb on this card right now, and I'm going to touch on that again here in just a little bit. All right, jumping on over to Tech Power-Up's 5700XT Pulse review. They also have the 5700XT Strix, which is actually overclocked a little bit, and does gain a little bit more ground. However, there's no price point on this, so I don't want to talk about it just yet. But all right, let's take a quick look at this Pulse here. All right, so going under the performance summary, let's take a look and see kind of where everything is. So basically, it's on par with the reference model, 1% higher, and 2% higher here at 4K. Now, if we take a look at the performance, we're basically 10% behind the 1080 Ti in their benchmark suite, and then coming in at 13% behind the 2070 Super. Just jumping over here to TechSpot, we have the reference 5700XT versus the 2070 Super, and they had this coming in at just 2% slower at 1440p. So considering the base model, the reference model, and the Pulse are essentially the same, at 1440p, we're seeing a difference of 10% using the Tech Power-Up suite. Now, this simply comes down to games tested and test methodology. However, I tend to stick with Steve's numbers and find Steve's numbers a little bit more reliable. So you can say anywhere between 2 and 10% if you want to. However, looking at the massive price difference of $410 versus $500 plus, could be much higher depending on which model you get, it's definitely not going to be worth it. And that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, even if you go on the high side, let's say 10% more, that means if the 5700XT is getting 100 frames per second, the 2070 Super is going to get 110. Is that important, relevant, or useful? No. Let's do it this way. If the 5700XT is getting 60 frames per second, the 2070 Super, at best case scenario, is going to be getting 66. Does that really make any difference? No, not at all. In reality, that extra $100 that you're saving, you could put that into a better monitor with FreeSync, which will make a much bigger difference than 10% different frame rate. And this is the reason why I'm saying the 2070 Super is irrelevant. I mean, it's just not fast enough to be worth that $500 price point. Going back to Tech Power-Up's value and conclusion, I mean, you can basically see all the positive points here. And they literally had to go so far as to say no hardware ray tracing, and the fact that memory doesn't come factory overclocked, and memory overclocking doesn't quite work. At least that's a fair grievance. I can understand that. However, we can also say the 2070 Super also doesn't really have hardware accelerated ray tracing, as it's not powerful enough to ray trace games even at 1080p, which is silly because why would you want to game at anything less than 1440p with a 2070 Super anyway? So my argument there is only the 2080 Ti has ray tracing capabilities. Every other card, it's basically irrelevant. And that's really where we're at. The cards are so close that you have to nitpick. Ultimately, it's 25% more expensive to get the 2070 Super. Now that the AIB cards are out, it's pretty much a definitive win for AMD. There's no reason for anybody to be looking at a 2070 Super anymore. Now, my gripes with AMD, they're still continuing. They're doing good work with their drivers. When I went ahead and was talking about the 5700, when I got that on hands last month, I noted that Crysis 3 didn't run very well on the AMD hardware. They have addressed that, so I'm really glad that AMD is paying attention. They still have to fix Opengl. Performance is better, but it's still not where it needs to be. They basically need to triple their performance and basically make Opengl games run just as well as DirectX games. So they still need to fix that, and that's one area where NVIDIA still has an advantage. But most games using Opengl are older, and with the newer drivers, the Radeon cards can run them. Most of them, anyway. However, I heard No Man's Sky is still particularly difficult to run on a Radeon card. And Relive still does not work in Opengl. That's a big problem for me, and AMD really needs to fix that. That's what should be on this, negative side. The fact that it doesn't have memory overclocking, who cares? Overclocking is dead. If you're buying cards for overclocking, you're doing it wrong. Here in 2019, overclocking is gone. You basically just spend more money on better stuff if you want more performance. You're not getting 25, 30, or 50% performance gains from overclocking. And if you're not getting at least 25%, it's not worth it. Like I just said, 10% means nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Less than 25%, it's not worth your time, guys. Now, tweaking, however, that is really still where it's at. Do some voltage tweaking, get better efficiency, and you may even get some higher clocks out of it if you can get the voltage down, heat and stuff down a little bit lower. Tweaking your system is essentially the new overclocking, but you're basically just paying for what you get. You know, if you want better performance, spend more money. If you don't want better performance, well, spend whatever, and there you go. That's what you get. So I wouldn't really worry so much about overclocking anymore. Whatever you buy, that's what you have, and that's what you get. I think that's a good thing. This way, you get what you pay for. It's not like back in the day when you got an i7 920 on an X58 platform, comes in at 2.66 gigahertz, and you can overclock it to 4.2 gigahertz. That's an overclock, a 1.6 gigahertz overclock. That is an overclock. If you're not getting that sort of level, don't even bother. But that's just my opinion on it. Now, getting back to my point, basically, the only thing that you can do is you can nitpick. Ray tracing isn't a thing. Even NVIDIA said it's not really going to matter until 2023, which is fine. AMD will have a solution out by then. So just buy the best card for the lowest price that you possibly can. And these new 5700XT's at $410, these Radeon Pulse cards, those are awesome. That's an absolutely great deal. Solves all the problems. I'll probably end up getting one at some point. Honestly, I don't really feel the need to upgrade right now, but that's something that I'm going to talk about in a future video. I just wanted to let you guys know that these AIB cards, they're looking really good. Check the links in the description below if you want to check out the reviews for yourself. If you like this video, please hit that like button, please subscribe, please share with friends. That really does help me out. And if you want to help support the channel and help me get stuff like this on hands for as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron over on Patreon. We can talk about some stuff on Discord, and that really does help me out. And thank you for everybody who does. That's all I have for today, and I will catch you guys in the next video.